So in 3 minutes, we get started.
Oi, James.
Oi, there we go.
Hi, Bev.
Hi, how are you doing? Lovely to see you. And Ricardo, I
here.
haven't seen you in a while. So, yes, it's nice to see you all. And I think we're in for a good night.
Yes, we will. Is Rachel joining us?
Unfortunately, she's still in another meeting with some techie people for the festival. So, unfortunately, she's not joining us. It's just you and I, unfortunately, and our lovely crew here.
I'm not going to capitalize on her Spanish tonight then.
Oh, sorry about that. You can talk to me about Afrikaans.
Yeah, that may do. That may do. All this is going to become a course in the future. So that's why we have to test. So tonight I'm testing from English into Portuguese or Spanish. Into Portuguese is going to be, or Afrikaans.
Okay.
And so the course is going to be the other way around, hopefully.
Okay, great.
So just a minute to go and
yes. I'm just going to close my door. I've got the young lads playing rapping music.
we come back, we get started. Ok,
Oi,
Beth.
James, tudo bem?
Olá.
Tudo
Olá,
jóia?
James, viva!
Eva, Bev, it's now up to you to invite people in if they come in.
Yes, no, I'll keep an eye out on that. Thank you.
Right, and also if there is any noise in the background or something, you just cut the noise. Thanks very much, and let's get started.
Yes, welcome to Golden Hour with your story and James McSill, who is going to be taking us through plain English and translations and how we can sell to the rest of the world by keeping things simple and focused. So I hope everyone enjoys the evening. I believe this is going to be quite an interesting breakthrough event. So over to you, James.
Very good. There you go. I always hope that my slides are going to work because I usually do not work with slides. Anyway, so there we go. So I'm just going to send a copy of my slides to Beverly afterwards, and she can make them available in the Your Story platform. So if you join the Your Story platform, you have access to our slides from tonight. And here you've got my website, maxil.org, where you can see all my events in Portugal, in Brazil, the Your Story Storytelling Festival as well. And here you've got maxil.com if you're listening in English. So there you go then. Anyway, so for about half an hour, I'm just going to have a chat with you about why, what these books have in common. And we've been working with them for about a year or so. So anyway, in about half an hour, you'll know why I showed you this slide to begin with. But just now, I need Bev's help or anyone who's fluent in English. So we can see two columns of words here. The first one is turn, come, hit, go, make, do, take. You can have lots of verbs here. And here we've got words like in, out, up, down, over, away, off, to, back. Beverly, I'm gonna need you now. Let me see if I can see you here with me. Right. Beverly, what's the meaning of the word turn?
Virar.
That's a translation. I'm coming to translation. I just want the meaning because it's like an English person who's writing in English, you know. So let's suppose Beverly is gonna write in English, but she's gonna have her microphone on. That's gonna help, right? Okay, Beverly. Now, what's the meaning of the word turn in English? You're writing in English and turn. What's turn?
Turn is to change something to its opposite side, almost 180 degrees. To turn, turn around, change. Yeah.
Changes. All right. Now, let's have a look at these combinations here. Beverly, what's turn in?
Turn in is probably to go to bed.
Turn out.
That could mean a number of things.
I know. So
Turn out is maybe to dress up. That could be to turn out.
out very well tonight. That's right. Yeah. Turn up.
To arrive, show up.
That's right. To arrive. Turn down.
To refuse or not accept.
Like an invitation. Yeah. Now turn over.
It's the same as what I explained earlier on, as to also swap around 180 or yeah.
Okay. Turn away.
Oh, that's more about how you speak about your body, deflecting or using your body movement to turn away from something.
I'm just going to briefly interrupt here. As you can see, Beverly is an English native speaker, so that's her main language, and you can see how she's struggling with all this. Yeah. So thanks very much, Beverly. Keep on suffering for us a bit longer. Now,
Fine.
Beverly,
Yeah, it's not easy, is it? It's not easy.
no. If it was easy, I wouldn't be here talking to you tonight. Anyway, so what's turn off?
To switch something off, close it down.
Yes,
It could also mean, to be put off more emotionally.
okay, yeah. So what's like turn to?
To face something.
Right. Turn back.
To return to something.
Turn to something. You could say like turn on.
Excuse me?
Turn on.
Turn on is to become emotionally engaged, really excited. Turn on.
You could you can
Or to switch something on in a physical way. Sorry, do you see, James? It could mean so many things.
I know it. Yes. Yeah. So first lesson that we can take from tonight: writing in any plain language is not easy. Yeah. So it's a real struggle. We have to learn how to do it. Beverly, as Rachel's not here, I'm going to use you a bit further. Now, let's come to the word come. What's come in?
It's to step inside or come closer.
Okay, like to enter.
Yes.
Right. What's come out?
Oh, that could mean a lot of things. Well, you could come out and announce something.
Mm-hmm.
Or come outside.
Right.
step outside.
That's fine. Yes. And what's come up?
Well, you could step up to something, or you could like upstairs or something like that.
Let's like what's come over?
Come over is to probably visit someone.
Right. Yes. And what's come back?
To return to something.
Very interesting, because when I said turn back, you said return, and now I say come back, and you say return.
Yeah. To revisit, to come back to the same thing.
When in English do you say turn back, and when you say come back? If I say turn back to me or come back to me, is there any difference?
Not really, no.
Okay. Anybody who knows English would think there's a difference if I say uh, uh, I've got to turn back to what I was doing, or I've got to come back to what I was doing?
It depends on how you're using it, isn't it?
No,
So,
yes, that's exactly what I
yes.
wanted you to say. It
Yeah.
depends on how you're using it. Let's get another word here. Let's get the verb hit. Everybody knows what hit is. Now, if I say hit off, hit off. What's the meaning of that word?
Oh, you're talking to me?
Oh, yes, it's you tonight.
Oh, okay. I'm the guinea pig.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it could be something quite physical, to hit off a desk, hit something off a table.
And if I say we hit it off very well.
Oh, we got along really well.
That's right, yes. Now let's get something like what it is like make out.
It was probably to you could make something out of like a dress or a fabric, or you could make out as in cuddle and snog, I suppose.
Nog to kiss, that's right, yes. Good. Uh, if if I have a word like steak, okay, what's take away?
Take away. It's fast food generally.
And
Or you could take away as in subtraction, or you could take something away from a child.
okay, so last one, like what? Uh, let's see, take over.
We've got Andre saying, take off is for me, James. I'm a pilot. Funny. Anyway, you were saying.
That's fine. Okay, so as you can see, when we are writing in English, and later on, after my presentation, if you want to ask about other languages, I can talk about other languages as well. I'm not boasting here, it's just I happen to know other languages, that's all. And so, but you can see, a native speaker of English is really struggling to grasp the meaning of very, very common words, in this case, her own language. So it means when we are writing, usually we think of the story or we think of the message, but we don't think of like how the message is going to be conveyed, what material we are using to sculpt our work of art. Most of the time, writers, they think of them, they do like to think of themselves as sculptors, but they are sometimes sculptors without the stone. They say, oh, we've got my chisel here, we've got my hammer. Yes, Dad, I know you do, but what are you going to sculpt? What's your raw material? Oh, and I need something here, like marble or sandstone, whatever used to sculpt things from. And when we are writing in any language, we need words. We have to be aware of the words. If we're not aware of the words, our writing is just like a sculpture without the stone. Pardon for repeating myself. Let's see the next slide here. Okay. Now, this one here, I'm not going to make Beverly suffer anymore tonight. So just I translated that for you. When we say something like to break a leg, we mean it's a way of wishing someone good luck, especially in the theatrical arena. They say, oh, break a leg. I hope your play is going to be a big success. To live up to something is to enjoy something, to enjoy life. To kick the bucket is to die. To shape up or to ship out, but to shape up is a very common expression. When you tell someone if their behavior does not improve, they'll have to leave. To spill the beans, a very common expression, is to tell a secret. It's raining cats and dogs. It's raining hard. He's the top dog. He's the leader. I smell a rat. So I think that something is wrong. Something is not right here. To chicken out, to become a coward, not do an activity because of fear. To eat like a horse. That's what I usually do, which is to eat a lot. To break someone's heart is to cause someone to feel sad. To burn the midnight oil is to work studiously late into the night. I usually burn the midnight oil almost every night. So the thing is, if you are writing to be translated, which I'm going to approach the subject in the next few minutes, you've got to forget the first column and you have to think in English just down the second column. Because if you say, Fernanda, I wish you good luck, it's going to be translated perfectly, practically to any other language in the world electronically. It's going to take a second to do it. But if I say, Fernanda, break a leg, and I translate that into Portuguese, Fernanda, quebra uma perna. She's going to say, well, it was a bit sorry. It's not even crazy because she's not going to be offended because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. If I say something like Mary kicked the bucket, and if I put that like on Google Translator, which I'm going to show you later, it's not going to be translated as to die, very likely. So it's going to be something like in Portuguese, chutaste o balde. So if I say something like Mary chutou o balde, they're going to say, oh, so she needs another bucket. Is she cleaning something here? Yeah. Then we say like spill the beans. Same thing. Yeah. If I translate that and I say espalhou os feijões, it doesn't even make sense in other languages. Raining cats and dogs, we don't say that because, for example, in Portuguese, there is an expression in which they say it's raining pen knives, which in English would make no sense whatsoever. Yeah. So it means that English and any other language in the world is full of idioms. And if we are writing to be automatically translated, we cannot think along the lines of idioms. We should be able to identify the idioms in our language. I'll come back to this slide in a minute. And I've got something here. I've got lots of, just a few examples here. You see, I've locked the door. They are as safe as houses. If you say that, it cannot be translated. But if you say, I've locked the door, they're very safe, it's translated with about 100% accuracy. If you say, I've been in seventh heaven ever since I got engaged, it's not going to be translated at all. If you say, I've been extremely happy ever since I got engaged, the level of accuracy is going to be 100%. If you say, if you have problems, call me, if you have problems, call me 24/7. It doesn't matter if I'm sleeping. Here, the accuracy would be possibly, if it was to a Western language, 6-7%, but still very low. But if you say, if you have problems, call me at any time. It doesn't matter if I'm sleeping. Accuracy, 100%. If you keep asking about him, sorry, if you keep asking about his ex-girlfriend, you'll be on thin ice. It's impossible to translate accurately. But if you say in a risky situation, that's it. That's 100% accuracy. So it means that when you are translating, or when you're using an electronic, I'm just seeing who's in the room now. Right. So when you're using electronic translation, you do have to think in plain language. So the first thing is word combinations. You have to remember that turn up is not going to be a very good expression to use if you're writing plain English. You've got the word return. But then we had, let me put the slides back here. We had the word, or the words, turn back and come back. Actually, Beverly said, well, I don't actually see any difference between turn back and come back. Some people could think that turn back, you'd have to turn before returning, and come back would be just like returning. But anyway, in English, we've got the word return. So it means that, let's suppose that Beverly had sensed that there was a difference. It means in whatever she was writing, she would have to express or rewrite the sentence in such a way that conveyed that meaning without using turn back or come back. She would say she was walking ahead of me. It's totally possible to be translated. So, suddenly, she turned back and looked at me. It can be translated 100% accuracy. Or if she says, Mary was standing across the road. When I called her from the window, she came back and talked to me. So she returned and talked to me. So that's possible to translate. So it means that turn back, come back, we'd have the word return, which would be translated automatically with about 100% accuracy. Whoops. Now, every language has got a word order. And English actually has a very common word order, which is subject, verb, object. However, when we are programming a translation software, we program to translate whatever the software identifies as the subject in one language as the subject in the other. Whatever is the verb in one language, the verb in the other. Whatever is the object in one language, the object in the other. So let's suppose, for example, that one of these programs that translates from English to Japanese. So the program is going to identify the subject in English and is going to say, oh, this is the subject in English, so I need now to translate that as the subject in Japanese. And in Japanese, the sentence also starts with a subject. Now, we have the verb. So the software is going to identify the verb in English. It is going to say, hold on a minute. the verb in Japanese usually comes at the end of the sentence. Now, the software is going to identify the object in English. It is going to say, the object in Japanese comes second because Japanese tends to be a subject, object, verb language. German tends to be a subject, object, verb language. I don't know about Afrikaans. So it means that when you are writing in English, you've got to try and write in the direct order. So it means that the basic word order in English, you have to stick to this word order because this one is programmed in all these softwares to make it very easy to be translated with about 100% accuracy in the other language. For example, here I've got whatever you see on your screen now is 100% of what it is in terms of word order in English, which is subject, verb, object. I just mentioned that. If you want to add some adverbs, some adverbial phrases, then you have place and time. So English usually thinks like thing to person, person plus, or thing, place, time. Subject, verb, object, adverbial phrases. Time sometimes can come at the end or at the beginning of a sentence. And I've got a few examples here. Susan went to school on Monday. You can see the colors there. So to school on Monday would be the adverbial phrases. School is the place, on Monday is the time. I eat bananas twice a week. So I subject, eat verb, bananas object, twice a week is the, the frequency. My father gave me a present for my birthday. My father's subject gave verb. Me a present is the objects here. Me is the direct object, which is not important here. So and sorry, me would be the indirect object, a present direct object, and for my birthday would be like the time. I'll skip to the last one. Last week I did enjoy some party, so I can have the time before last week. I subject didn't enjoy verb. Some party is what is the object. But I can say I didn't enjoy some party last week, which would be even the more direct order in English. So it means like if you want to write to be automatically translated, you have to write in this direct word order because the software, and I repeat here, picks up on all these basics and is just going to translate into the other language almost perfectly. And I'm just going to go back to go back to a few slides here. Sorry about this. That one. Okay. Now, it becomes slightly more complicated, which is not really going to be the subject matter tonight, is that English has got a fixed place for adjectives, and it's really very difficult, even for native English speakers, to try and remember the order of the adjectives before a noun. But for example, if we think of Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, French, the adjectives, they come after the noun. So there is a completely different word order. But the thing is, a computer software knows what the general order of adjectives are in both languages. So if you say something like Italian bag, the software is going to say in Portuguese, bag has got to come first. So it's going to say mala. Italian, italiano, but mala is a feminine noun, and the software is going to say italiana. So it goes like bag, Italian, feminine. So it knows how to do it. But if you say something like uma mala vermelha italiana, so it's going to say, sorry, if you say red Italian bag, and the computer wants to translate into mala vermelha italiana, the process is going to be, oh, it's a bag. Okay, bag is very easy to identify. Now, I get first, in Portuguese, the red comes after the noun, and the Italian is going to come after the color. It's the other way around. But let's suppose that an English speaker is writing his story and say, an Italian red bag. The software is going to get confused, going to be so I beg your pardon, so what that is, so like, what's the color here? Is Italian a color? No, Italian is not a color, because the general order of adjectives, color before origin. If you switch them around, Italian becomes a color and red becomes the origin. I said, people are going to say, well, where is red? That's the question that would come to the software's mind, if softwares could think like that, because they think very logically. So it means if you are writing something in English to be translated to other languages, and I'm going to, as I said, I'm going to leave these slides with Beverly. You can print this, have this near your computer, and you can check how you're writing your adjectives in English to see if first you have your opinion, then size, then age, then shape, then color, then origin, then material, then purpose. So you say, an ugly, small, old, thin, red Italian cotton sleeping bag. It's amazing that when you say something in English like, it was an ugly, small, old, thin, red Italian cotton sleeping bag, people understand each other, because from a Portuguese speaker point of view, it sounds really weird. I say, well, how can someone hear all those adjectives and at the end of the game, they know they're talking about a bag, you're qualifying a bag? Because in Portuguese, you'd have something possibly bag, ugly, small, old, thin, red Italian cotton for sleeping, or something like that. It would be just the other way around. So it means that for an English speaker, if you're writing, and if you want if you want your text automatically translated into other languages, you should follow the general order of adjectives, and there's no way around it. If you change them around, the software is going to think it's something else, and of course the translation is not going to be 100% accurate. And now I want to show you what these books have got in common, and actually I selected 2 pages of these books. All these books, it was not only myself, it was myself and Marcelo, who works with me. We translated all these books literally in a few minutes, some of them in a few seconds. We had David's book, David Stewart Davis, the Sherlock Holmes here. We adjusted the text in English. Actually, the author was asked to help us adjust that into very plain English, direct English. And we didn't use Google Translate, which I'm going to show you tonight. In those days, or just a few months ago, we use a software called Sistran, which is a kind of slightly better than Google Translator, but it's the kind of same thing, but you have to pay for it anyway. So we use Sistran for that, and the translation took about 5 seconds. 10 seconds, and we had the book translated. So we had it translated into Portuguese. And the translation was so accurate that for someone to edit the text before publication was literally just like reading and editing like you'd edit any other text, like possibly commas and semicolons and that kind of thing, and periods. So these things have got to be adjusted at times, and a word here or there, an expression here and there, etc. But it was translated almost automatically, as I said, in a few seconds. Then Rhonda's book and Scott Weems, it took a few minutes because they had more idioms and things like that, which we could not translate straight away. And, uh, and the authors decided not to adjust their texts that much. But I'm going to show you in a few minutes how you can work even with with these more difficult authors or writers. If they say, "Oh, but I so need here to be raining cats and dogs," could you please preserve that in the other language? Then there are ways of doing it and still getting this automatically translated. Then we've got books like Gamification, which was a technical book. This was so interesting because when you if you're going to read it in the original language, it looks as if it's complicated, but it's written in very plain language. In this case, it was written in very plain Portuguese. To translate into English, it took like a minute. And I remember that I worked a Saturday uh, because a few things I'm going to show you at times we need to readjust. Then I sent that to Marcelo, like a couple of hours after I'd done that bit of work on the book. And in a day's time, he sent the book back in English because Flora was going to take that to America on Tuesday or Wednesday that week. Here, I was working with two very good friends of mine, Richard Crevelin and Eliana Barbosa. And they decided to write in plain English. Richard, for many years, used to work with me. And so he knows all these things possibly a lot better than I do, actually. So, he works in cinema and as a writer and a playwright, etc. And so Richard and Eliana decided to write this be the hero of your story in plain English and sort of in plain Portuguese, because he's an English native speaker from America, and she's a Portuguese native speaker from Minas Gerais in Brazil. So they'd write their stories or part of their stories in plain language, and that would be translated in like a second. And I've got this one in the middle, David's book. It was now published in China. So for many years, we wanted to publish a storytelling book in China. And it was very complicated because as I'm being recorded, I'm not going to mention other people who write on the subject. Because what I'm going to say is a slight criticism. They try to write on a subject which doesn't have to be complicated, but they like to make it more complicated because that kind of add values to what they do. Fair enough. But if they want a book to be translated uh, quickly, because the publisher doesn't want to invest that much money in the translation, that's why we do this. At least this is one of the reasons why we do this. We had David, and he wrote in English a book on storytelling in plain English. It took about a few seconds to translate into Chinese. Then it was sent to the Chinese agent. The Chinese agent sold that almost instantly to this post and telegram press in China, and it's been a huge success in China. In China, so as far as I know, it's sold well over 200,000 copies. But for China, it's a drop in the ocean anyway. But it's sold very well in China. It was actually the first time someone has written a book on storytelling in plain English. I've got to confess that I regret that, because when I write my books on storytelling, my market is Brazil and Portugal. My Portuguese is too complex because I never wrote a book in plain Portuguese to be automatically translated into English. But after this huge success in China, one of these days I'm going to adjust one of my books and try my luck and see what happens. So you can see it doesn't have to be English to Portuguese. Could be English to Spanish, could be English to Chinese, English to any language whatsoever. Now I'm just interrupting for a second, and I'm just going to go online. Google. Google, here we are. Can you see the Google thing? Can you see my browser here? Anybody says anything?
Yes, I can see it.
Very good. Okay, that's all I need at the moment. So I'm going to show you something. So I'm just using English and Portuguese because that's the people we have in the room. Later on, I can actually try some Africans if you like. Now, if I have something in English, so if I say training cats and dogs, you see, whoever reads in Portuguese, está chovendo gatos e cachorros, makes no sense whatsoever in Portuguese. If I say it's raining hard, está chovendo muito. Perfect Brazilian Portuguese. In Portugal, they say está chover muito. It's perfectly translated. So if we say anything, if we write anything, and it's following these very simple rules. Of course, I mean, this is just, I have like an hour to talk to you about this. But if you learn how to do it, it's absolutely marvelous, because you can write in one language and automatically you can sell it all over the world. Bev, I need you for a second now.
Sure.
Right. So what I need you to just say something in English, or dictate something in English, and I'll try to write as you say it, and let's see how it would come out at the other end here, translated. Just a sentence or phrase.
Sure. The workshop is going really well.
Right. The workshop is going really well. You see, perfect in Portuguese. Workshop está indo muito bem. Now, try to use an expression, like an idiom or a phrasal verb.
Sure, sure.
And see it.
Oh, I had one. It's just gone out of my head. But he rolled around like a slug in salt.
Okay. Here, whirled. Here, whirled around like a slug in salt. Well, actually, in Portuguese, we'd be able to understand that. However, it wouldn't be an expression. It would be a metaphor.
Sure, Andre's given one. He was caught red-handed.
Okay. Yes. Okay, this one it's fine. Ele foi pego em flagrante. So caught red-handed was in this case perfectly translated, because possibly lots of people in the world that are using this expression now and translating it into Portuguese. So Google picked it up.
It's good.
So as you can see, so if you stick to very simple language, you can be translated perfectly. Now, let's suppose that we want to say something. That's just for us to finalize, and then you can ask me some questions here. Let's suppose you use another of these expressions. So let's see, it will be a good night, fellow. So I'm talking to a friend of mine just before he gets on stage, and I say, it will be a good night, fellow. Fellow means my friend for non-English speakers. Break a leg, quebrar a perna. So it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So as I know that quebrar uma perna is an expression, and I have to say it because that's what people say before someone goes on stage, I do like this. So it means that the editor is going to say, vai ser uma boa noite. Cara, it's translated into Brazilian Portuguese. A Portuguese person would use another word there, no problem. And quebrar uma perna, or break a leg, the editor would say, oh, hold on a minute. Quebrar uma perna is not correct. So I've got to go to what's between parentheses in English and see what the expression is. And then it's very easy, because if you just get something like, see, break a leg here, you go online and you say, what's break a leg? Whoops. What's break a leg in Portuguese? And so, of course, here that doesn't make any sense, because you go back to Google. But if I go to something like a dictionary, so, oh, sorry. If you go to a dictionary, it says break a leg, boa sorte, which is correct, and break a leg, merda para vocês, which is actually the expression that we use in Portuguese before someone goes on stage. Rather than, we can say boa sorte, but we can say merda, or merda para vocês. So it's perfect. So you go into a dictionary like this one, blah blah, and you have it translated, and you have that in context as well. Yeah, I've got a few examples here. So to put in thespian language, break a leg. Em linguagem de teatro, merda. Break a leg, merda para vocês. This is all translated. You see? So it means that it's much easier than we think to write in one language and sell all over the world. And now, with the advent of Kindle and ebooks, EPUB, and all that, if we write something like very simple short stories, if we write very simple messages, if we write our thoughts, something which is simple to begin with, then we open, or we're able to open more doors that we thought possible a couple of years back, a couple of years ago. Okay, let's open for, I'm open for questions now. About 10 minutes. Fernando das Neves says the expression in Portuguese for break a leg would be like muita merda. Yeah, so we've got a few variations, but it's merda is the key word. Very good. Now, questions, please. Beverly, you're speaking, but your mic is off. Beverly?
James?
James,
So, yes.
James,
Right.
Angela Guerra.
Angela.
I arrived a bit late. You were saying something about come back or some other expression,
Yes.
and I believe it's the same when you talked about red-handed. You should not use the come back, right? Better
That's
return.
right. Yes. If you're
Ah,
writing
okay.
in English, you stick to the word return. One thing I was just mentioning at that point, I think, is that the opening of our session tonight, I had turn back and come back, and Beverly couldn't actually think of a real difference between both expressions, which is quite right. So she's an English speaker and she's a native English speaker. So she never thinks of these things. However, if she wants to write in plain English to reach a much wider world audience, then she's got to have some trade-offs, give and take there. She says, okay, it's not exactly the same thing, but here we're going to use the word return because the word return is going to guarantee that it's going to be translated accurately.
Right. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I was just thinking, well, I'm obviously an English thinker and speaker, and I would write in English, and our audience, some of the people in the audience might write in Portuguese or Spanish or a different language. And the rules that apply to writing plain English, are they the same rules for the people writing in a different language who want to be translated into English?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Of course, now for this session, I'm using English into other languages, but the same talk could be given in Portuguese, and so Portuguese into English. We have to know how a language works, and then we should be able to write in this sort of plain language to be translated into another language, also possibly in plain language as well. It needs a lot of mental training. It's not that easy, because the thing is, like, usually we use language within a very familiar context. So I can imagine, for example, for my bunch of friends in the theater, my actor friends, for them, if someone is is about to go on stage, they use in Portuguese the word merda. Naturally, they wouldn't even think about that. They wouldn't even think, well, this is an idiom in Portuguese. It doesn't occur to them at all. However, if they're writing something and they use the word merda in Portuguese, it's going to be translated as shit in English, which would sound really very weird. Someone's going to go on the stage and you say shit. Shit to you, and say, I beg your pardon, no, my play is gonna be a success, so you have to say something else. So it applies both ways, so of course tonight I'm just taking English as an example.
I mean, also, I mean, we worked out quite early on that it is quite hard. You have to think very carefully about the choice of that word and the flow of the sentence, as you pointed out, for that direct translation.
You have to be aware of the language. You have to be aware how your language works, because computers and softwares, they're very stupid, incredibly stupid. So if you tell them what to do, they do it. If you don't tell them what they have to do, they won't be able to do it.
I've got Desiree with a hand up. Desiree, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Sorry, I think the conversation's moved on a little bit. It was just a remark. The first I heard about merde being used in terms of good luck was in classical ballet. You can't tell a ballerina to go and break a leg. So even in English, they use the French merde, I imagine, because ballet comes from
That's right. Yes,
uh,
in Portuguese,
France.
the words
But
are the same name. Yeah.
but the relationship to merda, I think, has something to do with good luck for you know how in England people who in the olden days who cleaned chimneys, they were supposed to bring good luck, and I think it was the same for the people cleaning up the shit in the streets in France. And that's how the word merde is related to good luck.
Well, just not to deviate too much from the subject tonight, but the things like, because of course I'm not a French speaker, but in Portuguese, sometimes we use a word which is the opposite of what we mean. And so possibly when they say merda in Portuguese to say good luck, it's like they wish something bad, which means something good. I'd have to go online and see exactly what the origin of that expression is. But anyway, so yes, you have to switch your microphone on.
Mute.
That's fine. Yeah, I can hear you.
Now, I was going to tell you that I've heard this subject of merde comes from the French because of the theater, the tradition in the theater. In the old days, if you had a full house, it meant that there were lots of carriages and horses near with the public.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there were
Okay,
was
like we're done in English.
going to be lots of merde on the street. So it meant a full house. It meant success. You're attracting your public.
Okay, right.
And-
Yeah. So whatever. But if you want to automatically
Okay.
translate whatever you wrote, you cannot use that expression as such, or you have
No.
that between brackets and then you use
Yeah,
it.
I understood that. I think that the context of things is responsible for a lot or everything, and your culture, whatever you know about the rest of the world. And for instance, in English, there are many, many Latin words. And it's for us. Portuguese is a Latin language. So it is easy to say return and not to know the idioms. And because those words were considered in English as like a higher ranking words, because they're not used every day. People tend to use the idioms in an oral conversation.
Yes, and English speakers, when they're writing in plain English to be automatically translated into other languages, they have to
know this.
They have to know this, but on top of that, they've got to realize that in other languages, sometimes that kind of difference, very slight difference that we have in English, wouldn't exist. Yeah, because for example, in English, if you say house, very easy. If you say house, it's going to be casa. But if you say domicile, technical word in English. However, domicílio in Portuguese is a technical word, but it's not so technical. If you say something residence in English, if I say, oh, Beverly, after the pandemic, could you pass by my residence for a cup of tea? She's going to say, oh my God. Before COVID, we used to live in a townhouse, and now it has become a residence. You know? So, however, in Portuguese, we use the residência. It's almost like a synonym to house. However, we've got in English the word abode, which is impossible to translate into Portuguese as such. Maybe we'd say residência, because if you say in Portuguese habitação with habitations, it doesn't make any sense in English. So anyway, so it doesn't matter what language you're right, you have to simplify to the point that it's going to be automatically translated, because the moment it's automatically translated and you have between brackets those expressions that you say, I need them to be translated. So it means you can actually think of like how much money you may have to to spend by having someone editing your text. Because
Mhm.
let's suppose that if you have 10 brackets per page, that's going to cost a lot.
Yeah.
But if you have like 10 brackets in your whole book, it's just going to take a few minutes. It's not going to cost a lot. If you don't have any bracket whatsoever, it means that you yourself can translate it and publish. And if you have like a very basic knowledge of another language, sometimes you can do the adjusting yourself. It's just like I was mentioning French. I'm not fluent in French at all, but of course I've got some knowledge of what French should be like. And I've been working with a French friend of mine, Patrick, in Cause Direct, and it's an institution. And Cause Direct is mainly managed by French people, and we have to exchange emails and things like that. And I use a lot of like plain English or plain Portuguese at times to be translated into French. And when they read my emails, they say, "Wow, you know, your French is perfect." No, my French is non-existent. My knowledge of plain language is better than any French. So, and the other day, they asked me to write an article. One of the, I can send this material to Beverly to leave that available on your story site. And so they asked me to write this article, and they said it's going to be published in French. And I said, well, I'll write it in English, and Patrick's going to translate it into French. But I'm not going to say anything about French people here. But let's say as French people, they find it very challenging to use other languages. And it's the case of my friend. So his English is very influenced, so as to say, by French. So he says, well, it's going to be complicated because if I have to translate that into French, I may not be able to understand exactly what you mean in English, etc. I said, well, never mind. I'm just going to produce the article in French. So I produce an article in very, very plain English, but of course, as I know Spanish, I know Portuguese, it's even easier for me to write in this very plain English. Translated into French, I adjusted a few things that I knew would be wrong. I sent the article and it says, oh, thanks very much for the edited article you sent. I said, no, you have to edit. And he says, no, there's nothing to be edited. It's perfect.
On that note, James, besides Google Translate, you mentioned, is it Sistran?
Sistran, yes.
Yeah,
Sistran.
and because I'm just thinking, if you've got high volumes, you know, Google Translate seems a bit laborious to put.
Well, do you know what? You know, because Sistran is kind of expensive. One thing you can do is I use a website or one of these one of these sites in which you can build websites in. So I use Wyola.com. I copy and paste the text in RTF or TXT on a website, and then I get that website online and right-click, translate to Portuguese or translate into English, translate into French, and it's all translated. So
Okay,
there are ways
great.
of doing that free of charge anyway. Yeah.
Christina's had her hand up for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you
Hello.
want to unmute, Christina? Lovely to see you.
Hello everyone. Same here. Great. Thanks, James, for all the input. It was really useful. I have this question though. It's something for us to discuss really. What happens with the language that is so plain is that not necessarily, but there is a tendency for it to be dry, and depending on what you're writing, you really need to find ways of saying things that I do not think a translation application will
Yeah, no, you're right.
will produce.
Absolutely. The thing is like, because the topic tonight is, if you want to write to be automatically translated, because translating can be very expensive. It very much depends how deep your pocket is. Not only to translate, but also to edit. You know, like I've got one of my books which has got to be translated into English, but it wasn't written in plain Portuguese because the story wouldn't be able to be written in plain Portuguese. So I'm waiting for a publisher in English to pay something like possibly £5,000 or more to have the book translated. Yeah.
Okay.
However, if I have like a few messages, or if I wrote a self-help book or something, that
Yeah, depends on the
yeah,
kind of
the
text
skills.
that you. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
So
yeah.
no, the focus tonight is how to prepare English to become plain English, so that your message is going to be conveyed in different languages. And the thing is, like, the stories can be conveyed with very, very simple vocabulary. As you know, I started my career working for Collins, and we used to have these readers. And I remember perfectly having like Mark Twain in using just 300 words, and sometimes one or two words would have like not actually brackets, but have like a footnote, just the meaning in very plain English as well. And at times when we had to have like Romeo and Juliet with 700 words, you say, wow, today's a good day, because we have 700 words to play with. And if we had to rewrite something with 7,000 words, and in those days that was like the advanced readers, 7,000 words, you say, wow, we don't even have to rewrite here because it's so easy. But of course, if you're really going to write, and if you want the original, to read the original is going to take a long time. We possibly never. We're always going to need a human being to translate. But like plain English translate into plain whatever language perfectly. It's just a matter of our work on that English. Okay.
Thanks for that. We're a little over time,
That's
and
right,
there's
yeah.
one last question, and then I think we're going to wrap up. Is
Right.
that you, Desiree? I see your hand is up again.
Yes, hi. I'm just wondering if one were translating into another language, James, is there any merit? I'm going to have to give an example because I haven't really thought this question through.
No worries.
So if I have a story that starts in one country and ends up in England,
Okay.
the start of the story, the descriptions of what goes on in that country could actually apply to a lot of countries worldwide. Is there any merit at all if, say, one were translating it into, is it Portuguese that they speak in Brazil?
Mm-hmm.
That you could change the origin of the country to the country that you're translating to.
Okay, right. So this question is outside of like the topic tonight, but it very much depends on your agent or publisher. Yeah, because the thing is, usually when an author chooses a country as the set of the story where the story is going to happen, there is a reason for that. So if you change that, that could be dangerous. You could be changing the story, So I don't know. It very much depends on the story. I've heard this question before, and the honest answer is you have to discuss that with your publisher. I remember perfectly well stories published by Harlequin in New York, or Mills and Boons in the UK. So those stories were translated into Portuguese and published in Brazil. Many times people would say, well, maybe if this beach wasn't Barcelona, maybe it's Copacabana, would not sell better in Brazil. But we never really came to to an answer, so we always left Barcelona. So I remember a Portuguese writer, Margarida Pinto Rebelo. Margarida usually sets her stories in a place near Lisbon called Cascais. And many a time people said, well, maybe if her stories happened like in Friburgo, which is kind of Cascais near Rio, it wouldn't work. Because the thing is, even though a man from Portugal and a man from Lisbon or from Cascais and a man from Rio, culturally they're very similar. Maybe by if an English person is observing, they're going to say, well, that's the same. But actually, for Portuguese people and for Brazilians, they'd be different. So so it means that if I translate and change the country that happens, a Brazilian would be very disappointed, because when in those days, like in these days actually, when a Brazilian lady is reading Margarida Pinto Rebelo, she wants to be touched, to be spoken to. She wants to be hugged, kissed by a Portuguese man, not by a man from Rio. Yeah. So changing the place would really change the story. Yeah. So it very much depends on what happens there. If I'm the publisher, I've never been a publisher in my life, just an editor. But if I was a publisher, I'd say let's stick to the original in that respect, because it's very much what Christina said. If you write a more complex story, if you wrote a story not thinking that your story at a certain point is going to be translated into other languages, you need a proper translator to do it, and someone to maybe adjust a thing or two, but not like places and things. So I'd leave things as they
Thank you
are.
very much.
Okay.
What an
Definitely.
interesting subject. There'll probably be a host more questions, because it's
I
not one
know.
we've covered recently, and I know this is a new area that's going to be turned into a course, hopefully. But I just want to thank everyone for attending, and thank you, James, for all those pearls of wisdom. It was really useful, and it certainly got me thinking about a lot of things, because if you're starting a book, do you start off saying, I want this translated, and you approach it in a particular way? And I've certainly seen, and I'm sure everybody else has, there are a myriad of challenges that go with this. It's not simple, it's not easy. Plain English is complex. It's like trying to write something succinctly in 300 words versus 500 words. Yeah. It's the same or similar kind of challenge. But what I do want to say, thank you so much. Thanks everyone for participating. And I also want to just remind everyone, Your Story is having a festival on the 20th and the 21st of March. James is one of our star guests, and he will be talking about how to approach stories in different parts of the world. He's going to be talking about his experience of language and all the stories he's got in different languages and experiences, both in film, theatre, editing, authoring, all sorts of things. It's going to be quite a rich little talk. And so come and see James at the festival. And all you need to do is to go onto our website and choose the free festival plan, and you'll get all the updates. We've started uploading information, and come and join us. It's going to be a good time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.
James, you and I are going to chat for a little bit.
Yes, I'm just going to
Bye-bye.
come out and come back
Stop
in.
the recording.